Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. In these last couple of days there's been a fair bit of discussion regarding some of these cool Legendary League teams that just are not good by any means, and how it's even possible that some of these teams came to form 2 seasons in a row where they are very poor indeed once again. And tweet your thoughts in the comment section below. Like if you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe if you are new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. It really helps out the channel. Thank you very much indeed for doing that. First of all, thought this was funny from HaLLey, tweeted out a couple of days ago. This throwback reality show that Nade, Clay, Big T and Joe DeLuca did. I think Hastro features in this and a few other guys as well. Just about, well, incredible stuff from back in Modern Warfare 3. Probably have to revisit some stuff like this and some documentary type stuff, certainly. Throughout the off-season, I've got like 100 odd ideas in this spreadsheet, which I'll get to work at some point. If you guys have any other ideas on what legendary, cool legendary moments or ideas you'd like to see explored, do let me know in the comment section below. Let's talk about this then, right? So yesterday, Seattle Surge lose, I'm pretty sure, their 10th series in a row. Not the greatest result for these guys by any means. A lot of questions come out of this, right? Because it just seems like despite they almost win maps at times, they just can never get over the line in this series. And we've talked about this for quite a while on the channel, right? If you want to be able to win series like this against teams like the Rokkr, you've got to be a good search and destroy team and actually win some searches and like win game 2, win game 5, and it will try and win control. But for some reason, despite their search and destroy and control being just absolutely woeful as of late, they really haven't improved on it. And I'm sure they're trying to improve on it, but like, we see teams like Atlanta FaZe, they have a poor series of poor tournament, I suppose, in their search or poor tournament in their control. They work really hard on it. They come out next event and absolutely dominate everyone in that mode. Now, I'm sure that these teams, if they really went to hell for leather to try and improve at some of these game modes, they could manage to do so. Doesn't seem like it's going to happen though. So Rokkr take them down yesterday once again. Their 10th series on the road. I do feel bad for these guys, really, how it's going for them. But as you can see right here, Octane, not particularly happy. It's a 10-game control losing streak they are now on. And now a 10-match losing streak. This is interesting, actually. It ties Rokkr for the most consecutive games lost dating back to last season as well. So last season, Rokkr had a really poor finish to the season. They lost 10 matches in a row. Seattle have now equaled that, and with all likelihood will probably surpass it, because their next match they play is up against OpTic Chicago. So they're probably going to have the longest losing streak in CDL history if they do indeed lose that match, or at least they have it tied at the present time. This raises some questions, right? Because last season, Surge had an awful team. There's no doubt about it. We'll look at it in a second. Then this season, they also have an awful team yet again. So who's calling the shots? And a lot of people are saying, really, like the fact there's so many of these teams compared to the top dogs the likes of Atlanta FaZe. That's why Atlanta FaZe have such an easy time, because the way some of these teams are being built down low, not just by the players themselves making some of the decisions, but also by the coaching staff and the general management of the team, is that, well, just not leading to success for some of these organizations. And well, it's pretty tragic stuff, really, given the amount of money, I suppose, that these teams have put into line. As Prestinni says, like, it was disappointing to see him upset yesterday. Like, obviously, it's this is a tough time for these pros on Seattle, but at the end of the day, the onus is on them to turn their season around, most certainly. And what Octane has been tweeting out these last couple of days has been relatively interesting. Of course, the frustrations are very clear indeed. But he tweets this out as well, as you can see right here, with 100 Thieves top on, and of course a lot of his memes and gifs that I suppose he has of when he was in 100 Thieves back in Black Ops 4, but still, pretty interesting stuff, right? And we see some interaction with Kenny once again, and I don't really know. I mean, to my expectation, I can't imagine this Seattle Surge squad exists like at all next season. If they are going to build around anyone next year, I think it should be Gunless. A lot of people have been saying how he's a much better teammate this year than he was in previous titles, and I imagine Octane wants to go somewhere else, where you'd think the Los Angeles Thieves, if they do continue to struggle, could be an option. There was just some of you guys were talking about it in yesterday's comment section, the fact that, okay, what if you bring Octane back into Los Angeles Thieves? Kenny's there as kind of that flex role. You've got Huke as your SMG, and you decide to actually build around him from the start of the year, and then you find another kind of entry SMG player, or, one of those entry guys. I imagine you would need an entry guy, so whether you keep one of the guys you've got on your current team or not, that is another question. But I wouldn't be surprised if Thieves try and make a move like that going forwards, because it's probably something which might have better success for both of these individual entities at the present time. But Octane continues to hint about the fact that he may well be joining Los Angeles Thieves next season, or at least has an eye on this, and some discussion here between Kenny and Octane, as we tend to see on the timeline. Also, this type of stuff was coming out as well with regard to the whole coaching staff on the side of the Seattle Surge. I'll play the clip on screen for you guys right here that came up from the flank a couple of days ago, with the guys talking about the fact, and it's Enable as well, actually, who was, of course, on the Seattle Surge last season, discussing how a lot of these organizations are just in complete shambles the way they're building their rosters, and no surprise, really, they're having awful results here in the CDL and not really living up to their fans' expectations.
Crowder said it the best in the chat. He said, if you're building a team, you should trust your GM and coaching staff to make the right choice, not social media. And Crowder, aka the head coach of Atlanta FaZe, is absolutely right. I think he hit it right on the nose. I mean, you have them for a reason. You had them for a
I'm
year.
sorry to bring up this example again, but if New York management said, no, Tommy, I don't want to pick up aBeZy because social media hates him, I wouldn't be on this team.
Yeah, you wouldn't be on the team.
But
You wouldn't be on
instead,
the team.
they listen to their players and their GM.
Well,
Yeah.
Ben was right though. What he said is like it just comes down to the organizations. Like that's why you see teams like FaZe being as good as they are, and then half the teams are dog shit because they literally have idiots running the show.
Yeah, no,
Like
100%.
So it comes down to the people actually hiring someone who knows what they're talking
Experience. A lot of these and listen, I'm mind blown with some of the pickups that some of these pro teams make in their GM role and their coach. Like, listen, I feel like sometimes people, I don't know what they do. I don't know how they come up with this. But sometimes they just pick up somebody who has literally absolutely no experience at all. So you just know it's like it just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make
Some
any
of the
sense.
worst teams I've ever seen in the league
from
this
the last 2
year.
years.
Not
I
even
agree.
the players. Like the players could all be in the league, but just the way that, honestly, probably over half of the teams in the league right now were built is unbelievable. Like
Well,
how
I
they
agree
somehow
with you,
came.
Ian. There were years and years and years of like, especially during like the robust roster mania periods back during like Ghosts and AW. We can keep going farther back than that. Like teams would form because it's like the scraps and the roles don't make sense. And those teams get chucked. I would have thought that a lot of teams would have learned that lesson. I think like teams just aren't being built in the beginning of the year to give themselves like the flexibility to be good with 2 ARs or be good with 3 subs, and that's where they get in trouble.
So I saw this first posted on the Reddit by Jack Birdsey right here, but I thought this was just incredible stuff, and Octane tweets it out as well, in reply, of course, to his coach, Joey Nubsy. And obviously this is just like banter, but I mean, still, at the end of the day, people have been talking trash on Joey, they've been talking trash on the players, on the entirety of the Seattle Surge organization, and at the end of the day, who can blame them when they're on a 10-loss streak, right? So this is what it is. Chance of making champs 0, Series 1 in the last 10, 0, Control win to the last 10, 0, credible roster decisions in the last 2 years, 0, time it's spent outside of the bottom 4 in 2 years, absolutely 0 in 28 plus series right now as it stands. And of course last year there were some questionable moves. At the end of the day, Joey didn't necessarily have too much to work with given the fact that Seattle Surge clearly didn't want to make too many changes, but their substitutes were Panda and Proto. Was that ever going to work? This season as well, some of the changes they've made, I mean the fact that okay, Decimate comes in, that's understandable, but bringing Classic in just seems like, I mean, it just seems like they're getting their friend another 50k bag or whatever for the rest of the season, right? As opposed to actually trying to build a roster that has a chance to improve. That at least was my perspective when I saw the move at the time. And this was Seattle Surge's roster at the start of last season. It was Karma, Enable, Octane, Slacked, and aBeZy. It was meant to be slightly different. They were meant to get Envoy and Arcitys into this team instead. That actually may have been at the very least a decent squad, but still I don't think would have been spectacular by any means. But yeah, this is the squad they ended up with. And look, there's just so many players on this team that we talked about it at the time. The fact that Karma, Enable, and Slacked pretty much all play the same role. I'm pretty sure last year they had a general manager maybe called Bob Morris, but I think like maybe they fired him or he just left. I'm not really sure. I don't know if they even have a general manager anymore. There's Joey over there as their kind of a, well, he's their coach, right? But they don't really have a GM that's making any roster moves. We've seen lately, the guys on the flag have been talking about the fact that these lineman player cards make some decisions for some of these pro teams that just have no idea what they're doing, right? So it's just kind of embarrassing, right? If you're a Seattle fan and you're looking at this team last year, which was just shambolic, and it seems like they just didn't learn from the lessons at all, right? The problem with this team was, okay, they got big names, they paid them an awful lot of money to be on a team, but at the end of the day, the players that are at the ladder end of their career, Karma since retired, Enable since retired, Slacked of course now down in Challengers, and aBeZy maybe on his way out as well. It's tough to say exactly how Los Angeles Grillers goes going forward. I mean, this was Enable finding his way out of the team not too long ago, and of course he was talking in that clip the fact that most of these teams are just built by absolute morons, to be honest. Like, who's making some of these calls for some of these teams? And Seattle Surge is certainly one under question, right? Because last season, a woeful roster. Then they come into this year with Gunless, Prestinni, Octane, and Loony, of course. And I think a lot of people are looking at that team in a relatively similar light and thinking, okay, the SMG duo still very questionable as it was last year. And are you just paying some of these players into retirement? The likes of, okay, bringing Loony back for maybe one more season. That might be his last season competing at the top level. I think that's what a lot of people were saying before the season began. Not really building for the future. Again, you've managed to do it 2 years in a row. And some of these other teams are in a similar spot. I mean, I pointed out 4 of them right here, or 3 of them. I was talking about the London Royal Ravens, but at least they were solid at the end of last season. They weren't completely awful. But LAG, like, they've just been awful 2 seasons in a row. Seattle Surge in the same boat. Paris are actually solid towards the start of last year, and they, to be fair, made a complete overhaul of their team. So maybe they don't necessarily deserve to get put into the same spot, but still, Enable's talking about the fact that like 6 of these teams are just run awfully, and well, certainly these have got to be up there in terms of consideration, right? So it's just interesting the fact that we went from 5v5 to 4v4. A lot of people said, wow, that's going to really, like, not necessarily concentrate the talent, but yeah, effectively concentrate the talent in the league. All the dead wood is is going to be out of the league, and therefore the entire league is going to be super competitive. But as we see it, FaZe are still dominant. Some of these other teams are still very much dominant. We have a very clear top 4 right now, or at the very least we have a very clear top 3 at the present time. And down low we have a very clear bottom 4, right? So okay, it's just kind of one of those situations where despite the league going back to 4v4, the difference is not necessarily in terms of the players' ability, because the players, I think, individually on an individual level can certainly be argued that they deserve to be in the league. But just the way these teams have been put together, you could certainly say is that not particularly good these last couple of seasons. This is how it looks for Seattle Surge then, because of course they're down here at the bottom of Group A. They're 0-3 against their FaZe. I mean, obviously they're 0-3 so far as well in the group so far. They play OpTic next, then they play Paris. Paris is a chance for them to win a series, but Paris have actually been looking alright as of late, and so have Seattle, to be fair, so it could be a relatively close one, but that is their chance, I think, to break the drought, because otherwise they're going to go to the major, they're going to go into stage 5, and who knows if they even win a series for the rest of the season. That would be pretty woeful to see, but it's certainly something which has been on people's minds at the present time. Thought this is a really interesting statistic actually before we go into the games for today. This is what it looks like for a few teams. There's round 11 stats in terms of distribution of hardpoint damage. So this is for the OpTic guys. Pretty interesting to see that Envoy and Scump are very closely knit, right? So they almost always, you know, get in terms of this bracket right here, and this is the upper limit, this is the lower limit, so pretty incredible to see, to be honest. But in terms of the ARs, it's actually relatively inconsistent, right? Dashy's super up and down, Formal's relatively up and down as well, so the SMGs and OpTic super consistent, the ARs not necessarily quite so much. On the Atlanta FaZe guys, it's just incredibly consistent across the board, right? All of the guys are on a very similar mean. It's actually incredible to see how consistent these guys are statistically across the board. And well, this is Toronto Ultra as well, one of the other top teams here, with Bance a little bit lower, but all the other guys with this incredible ability to pop off here with these peaks up over the 6,000 damage mark. These are the games then to finish off the day. Mutineers versus Gorillas, the first series of the final Sunday of the Florida Mutineers home series. Week 2, of course, of stage 4 of the CDL to keep you guys up to date. But Mutineers, if they win this, they'll be 3-1 in their group, sitting very pretty indeed to qualify for the winners bracket at the major, especially after that victory against Ultra just, last week, at the start of last week now. Second series, FaZe versus Thieves. Tough one for Thieves, most certainly, especially after their loss to the Paris Legion the other day. I think the FaZe should come out and handle business right here, and maybe more questions for the Thieves that they don't have a good result here. The series I'm really looking forward to is Subliners versus Empire, because yes, New York have had a bit of a tough week. They still got over the line in that series against the Mutineers, so they should be favourites here most certainly. But still, Empire have a decent record so far this season against New York, and I mean, who knows what happens, right? Crim versus Clayster, it's always a good time, and this might well be time for Empire to prove that, okay, yes, with this Vivid team, they actually can be championship contenders once again. But intrigued to hear your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, I'd greatly appreciate a like on the video. It really helps out the YouTube algorithm, and you enjoyed this content. Other people like you may enjoy this content as well, and I've grown the competitive Call of Duty community. Thank you for watching as always, take care, and I will see you next time.